Is public broadcasting really for all the public? We say no. This is the NewsBusters podcast. I'm Tim Graham, your executive editor, joined here today by CNS News managing editor Craig Bannister. Welcome, Craig.
Thanks, Tim.
And from Florida, Clay Waters, our chief researcher on public broadcasting.
Good to be here.
Clay was first an intern at the Media Research Center in 1993. Back when he was into the Cranberries and the Breeders or whatever other alternative bands you were into.
The B-52s were making a little comeback then, yes.
Yes. We just wanted to chat, first of all, today about, I am very intrigued to see how PBS and NPR have to handle Trump somehow causing a ceasefire in the Middle East. Actually, on NPR this morning, the 9 a.m. newscast, they went to I guess it's Carrie Khan, and she said, one Israeli called Donald Trump the eighth wonder of the world. And I thought, wow, that has to really hurt for NPR to report.
Those are going to be some hard pills to swallow, especially if he does win the Nobel.
Well, apparently it's already set and cooked, for this week. So he's not going to win it right now. So, yes, the Gaza has another 12 months to blow up.
Yeah, that's true.
But still, Obama won a preemptive peace prize.
Preemptive peace prize, yes. It doesn't matter what he's actually done. It's what he's going to do. And then, of course, he sort of upset the pacifists in the years to come, as I recall. He was drone striking American citizens who happen to be terrorists. Okay, so Clay, you got two hot new studies out. We picked the study period of the first 2 months after they defunded, and found, of course, dramatically that they favor liberal guests over conservative guests.
Yes, they were not chastened at all. We did an NPR study for the 2 months and a PBS study for the 2 months. This is my first national public radio study. I was frankly a little surprised at the guest disparity.
I was not.
I should have been.
I was not.
Well, you could expect
Tim is an old hand at National Public Radio.
I do a lot of listening to National Public Radio.
Well, you could expect the disparity, but not for it to be
That big.
great. 10 times.
17 times.
17.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's get the number here. 53 liberal guests over the 2 month study period and 3 conservative guests. As you know, Tim, I am a lenient grader when it comes to logging these.
Yes, you are.
Yes. So the actual, even that stark figure is probably understating things. Although I will say NPR is a little more sedate and polite than PBS.
Yeah. So
were all 3 Trump-hating Republicans?
it's a good question. We had one real Republican on NPR. We had one real Republican, right?
He was
a
a leader of the Texas House during the
redistricting,
congressional redistricting battle, and he actually uniquely, I figure, got a couple of challenging questions.
Yes.
Meanwhile, Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker, he was able to call the ICE raids, early days of Nazism compared to early days of Nazism with no blowback, no pushback from the journalists. So
yeah,
definitely
civility.
a bias.
NPR is very civil and quiet as you compare Trump to Hitler. This is kind of the way it goes. We should also say, and this is true of the PBS study as well, you, in your lenient grading, when they discussed the Middle East and they would have a spokesman for the Israeli point of view, often against a pro-Hamas point of view. We counted the Israeli point of view as a conservative view, because I guess it is.
That was one of the few issues they would actually bother to sometimes uniquely at least strive for guest balance for whatever reason. But yeah, it does kind of neutralize the conservative point if you're already overtalked by a Gaza friend.
So we had 53-3 on NPR, and then on PBS NewsHour it was 98-21. So that was slightly better.
That's about what we've been seeing. This is the third PBS guest study, and they've been kind of in that range, depending on if I'm cranky that morning or not.
Yeah,
they're pretty. It's pretty about.
I was reviewing Clay, and he had Miles Taylor on the list of anti-Trump Republicans, and I was like, no. I mean, that interview for one was a complete. It was one of the most viciously anti-Trump segments they had in the 2 months. And to me, it's like you don't qualify as a Republican anymore if you voted for Biden and Harris like twice. It doesn't count. We had more of a question with John Bolton, who I think ended up in the middle because John Bolton comes on to denounce Trump, but John Bolton has announced he's never voted for a Democrat in the last 8 years. So we're like, all right. And if he's upset that Putin's being platformed in Alaska, we're like, okay, that could be old Cold Warrior. Some of these things.
I couldn't quite make myself put him in the liberal category. It just didn't work. So there were some, we made some judgment calls, but I'm pretty confident. I would just how stark the disparity is. Like PBS, the news hour, they would invite a guest on to call Trump, oh, is this the dawn of authoritarianism? That's one liberal.
Yeah. We
had some guy who defended Trump on getting rid of the penny.
Yes.
A really smaller issue, but that was one conservative. I mean, authoritarianism versus, let's get rid of the penny. It's so that's kind of the disparity, but they both count equally. So I'm just kind of saying even that 4 to 5 to 1 ratio probably understates the real bias you watch.
I would like to go on just to defend the penny. I know that like making a penny costs 12 cents or something, and a nickel costs 27 cents or whatever, but I'm sort of like, I'm old fashioned, but I guess we don't carry around a lot of change.
No. And I guess there's something to be said for being able to round off to the nickel.
Yeah. I mean, that's where we're headed, I imagine. Although, again, I use my bank card almost exclusively, like everywhere I go.
Right. Who carries change
cash.
around anyway?
I still like cash. I feel better with cash in my wallet.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess, Clay, that the news hour is better than I won't call them friends, at The Atlantic and their Washington Week show, which we've done studies on that. And, of course, they don't have any conservative journalists on that show. I mean, and we don't count Stephen Hayes as a conservative, although I guess a couple weeks ago he kind of made a point. So,
he did not like what Trump did. He referenced the former Trump lawyer Ty Cobb and kind of signed on to what Ty Cobb said. This is a dangerous thing. But he also said, let's pump the brakes on this. Let's not pretend that Democrats didn't do this. He harkened back to the Kennedy era.
Right.
There was some radio scandal in the '60s, and he went through it. Obama and
Merrick Garland.
Right. He did. You can almost. Maybe I was imagining it. I was Goldberg getting a little impatient there. The host.
Yes.
Jeffrey Goldberg.
Yes.
Yes. It was a good couple of minutes.
This to me is what really makes me upset when you try to say the Justice Department has only recently not been. It's always been independent until now. Like JFK named his brother Attorney General. And yes, we know what Obama's people did. A lot
of the Tea Party, yeah.
Well, not all of it. More and more coming out.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people forget what happened under Obama. They shouldn't forget, obviously, what Biden's Justice Department did to Trump. And so now it's the Comey indictment it's wildly controversial because he's going after his enemies. Wasn't Biden going after Trump?
Well, you're seeing now even some Democrat senators either expressing or feigning outrage over the spying on senators' political opponents, which I think brings up another point. Clay, have you seen that there's a blurring of the lines between what you would consider liberal and conservative guests? I mean, when you have Alan Dershowitz and Bill Maher saying the left has gone too far.
Interestingly enough, there are plenty of Republicans that show up on PBS and NPR that are anti-Trump, that are probably invited solely to make anti-Trump points. I cannot, not in the study period for sure, any Democrat invited to make a defense of Trump.
Right.
So in that sense, the only blurring would be on the Republican side, like we were talking about. John Bolton and Miles Taylor,
but I think
did not come on to represent the conservative view.
I think Craig's making an interesting point, and I think it underlines the way we do these things. If for some reason, and PBS has had Bill Maher on before, but not recently. If PBS has a Bill Maher on and he says the left is a mess, the left is extreme. The left hasn't gotten it together. We would count him as a conservative guest just because of what he's saying, wouldn't we?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, I mean, this is the way we've done all our studies. You know, like The View, when Nick Fondacaro studies The View, when Alex Christie studies the comedy shows, if they don't say something remarkably political, they're either not counted as a liberal guest. If they say something conservative, I believe in one of the comedy studies, Bill Burr said some stuff that somebody didn't
something
like.
about COVID, yes.
Bill Burr Bill Burr said something conservative, so he counted as a conservative guest. I mean, that's really like to me again. Yes, we're lenient graders. You know, I always fuss about the group Fairness and Accuracy in Reporting, and back when they were attacking the PBS NewsHour in like 1990, they were like, Congressman Bernie Sanders doesn't count as a liberal because he's an elected official. I mean. You had to be an unelected Marxist to count as a left-wing guest. We're much more lenient than that.
Yeah, we Robert Reich, Clinton's Secretary of Labor, he went on to talk about artificial intelligence. So no, Mark Marone, or however you say it.
Or Maron, yeah.
Yeah, podcaster's name. He's viciously liberal, but he was talking about his personal stuff. So yeah, we were pretty lenient. We still got this amazing figure.
Douglas Brinkley came on to discuss Hurricane Katrina, but
I was surprised at that one. Yeah, he didn't. There was no blame game there, which frankly caught me.
They must have discussed it beforehand and said, "Let's not discuss George W. Bush," because somebody might say, "Well, what about Ray Nagin?" Well, he's in jail, you know. So yeah, I mean, we had people who we would count as liberals, but since the content of the interview wasn't that way, again, just like if Robert De Niro shows up on a late night show and they just discuss the movie he's on, we don't count it. So yeah, that's how we get to 5-1. I wanted to bring up one other thing, Clay, before we go to some of the things that Craig's been writing about at CNS News, and that is the book bans, because this really gets me, because the PEN America, which is a left-wing lobby, is doing this big movie about the librarians and all those cruel parents who are trying to ban books in school libraries, that naked comic book, genderqueer books. What
things you can't read on PBS.
Yeah, they won't show the images on PBS, but they're going to defend those books. They're not even actually going to discuss what the controversial stuff is.
Which is why you've had mothers at some school board meetings actually reading from the books.
And then the school board people are like, you can't do that. You can't read that here in a public setting. Oh, but my 10-year-old can read it. Check it out. But what makes me laugh is it's all about, oh, you people want to censor speech. You're all for book bans. Well, how about you have an opposing conservative guest to tell the leftists they're full of beans on banned books? They're not banned books. First of all, just because they're removed from a school library doesn't mean the book is banned. You can go buy it on Amazon. You know, there's just nobody there to actually push back.
Did you see the Stephen King thing? I'm the most banned author in America. 85 books have been banned. I guess that's why it's so hard to get a Stephen King book. I mean, they're using that as it's a total misnomer, that word ban. I mean, we're talking about age appropriateness for sexually explicit content. Really, that's 90% of these book bans, I believe.
Though I was impressed that King apologized for one of his leftist comments recently.
Yeah, he was sort of he was forced into it in a Twitter way, as I recall. Yes. So, Craig, you've been working on one of the things that I kind of enjoyed this week was. Well, that sounds wrong. So a house basically blows up on fire, and the family like jumps out the window. I mean, it's a great TV story because that thing was, I mean, the fire just devastated.
The home burned to the ground.
And of course, it was the home of a judge who had ruled against Trump on a voting rights case. And so there's Nicole Wallace on MSNBC trying to blame Trump.
Exactly. Saying that they were these right-wing extremists, suggesting that they were to blame for this because the judge had ruled against Trump. Well, first off, the judge's decision was reversed. So, bygones.
Yeah. Yeah, it's over.
It's over, and she lost. So
Yeah.
there are no consequences to her ruling. So it would, you want to save your powder as far as, if you're an extremist
Yeah.
wanting to go after someone, this wouldn't be the judge to do it. But yes, she was determined to pin this on Drudge because words matter, which I find incredibly ironic.
Yeah, I guess the judge was anti-Trump, and her husband is a Democrat legislator, and it seemed to me that what the MSNBC types were leaping on was, well, we're having this fight over whether the left is more violent than the right, and we have to try to categorize this one on the right. And then pretty much the same day, the local law enforcement was like, no signs of arson.
Exactly. And MSNBC online, at least in their article, they put out a clarification.
I love when they do that. We would like to clarify we were completely wrong.
And, well, but you see, they wouldn't admit that. And you'll see, if you Google it, you'll see a lot of other left-wing news sites using the same language, especially in their headline. The law enforcement said that there's no initial evidence of arson.
Yeah, initial evidence.
So no initial evidence. So that became the headline for the correction. No initial evidence.
There's no evidence yet.
And then they would always work in another quote which says the investigation is ongoing.
Yeah.
Okay, so they haven't got him yet.
Yeah.
But the investigation is ongoing, so anything, could still happen.
Yeah, I mean,
They live in hope.
it's Clay, it's like, it's the way that they always have trouble ascribing motives to violent people, where we can all understand what they were doing. Just because they put anti-ice on the bullet casings doesn't necessarily mean he was anti-ice.
And 2 years ago, they were all talking about stochastic terrorism, where Trump says something and it filters into the audience, and it's this vague miasma in the air that makes somebody do something. But now, when the left, we have solid evidence of motive. Oh, no.
I don't think we would try to argue that Donald Trump doesn't do hot talk, that he doesn't say things that they find inflammatory.
Sure.
We'll stipulate that one. But why don't they acknowledge that their discussion or their talk about Trump is very inflammatory?
When you call someone Hitler, a Nazi, claim he's a threat to democracy, and as a number of conservative analysts have said, those words tend to dehumanize the person being slandered, libeled, attacked. And once you do that, well, then anything you do to them is legitimate.
Well, and again, they would say, I imagine, well, Trump described such and such as vermin or as animals. They would try to say Trump said all immigrants are animals. No, he was discussing MS-13 gangsters. Yes, but once again, let's turn to another thing you've been doing.
I'm sorry, undocumented gangsters.
Let's be kind. Undocumented suspects in a criminal action. Kilmar Abrego Garcia's undocumented wife beater. But Jay Jones, candidate for Attorney General in Virginia, as we know, this is a story that we're not doing. Even PBS hasn't touched Jay Jones. Shocker. Jay Jones, talk about dehumanizing people. I want to put 2 bullets into this Republican and kill his kids because they breed little fascists. I mean,
right.
If they're going to talk about the tone, it's fascinating how they don't want to talk about the tone when it's a left-winger. This is a Democrat candidate for statewide office in an off year. I mean, why not do it? Why not cover it?
Well, and they say, well, it happened, 3 years ago. He's evolved. Well, I'm not sure you evolved quite that quickly. And on top of that, as they say on Law and Order, it goes to state of mind.
Yeah.
that this is something that he has expressed that suggests that's the way he thinks about his political opponents.
Yeah, and
There's given so many avenues to back off, and he did not. He doubled down every time.
yeah, I mean, the part of it was when he was sending these messages, the people on the other end were like, "Stop! What are you doing?" And he would like, "No, I'm serious." It wasn't. It'd be one thing if somebody was offended and he goes, "No, I was just joking."
Yeah.
But in an open letter Monday, you report Virginia's Fraternal Order of Police called on Jones to withdraw from the race. So that would be a news hook for them to do.
Well, I haven't seen much of that in the news except at CNS News. But yes, they came out and unequivocally condemned his comments and said that they believe he's unfit for office and should drop out. Now, he is also allegedly said some things about how if more police would die, maybe they'd stop killing people.
Yeah. Well, that would probably be the thing that got the Fraternal Order of Police to say something.
Right. This is the Virginia Fraternal Order Police. They put out an open letter to him calling him to resign. Now, so far, as I said, you haven't seen a lot of news highlighting that.
Yeah, I mean, we did see Joe Scarborough said he should get out. But, I mean, the Democrats in Virginia Beach Democrats, the Fairfax County Democrats, I mean, they put out statements saying, no, we're still for him. I guess I want to say it was Everytown for Gun Safety was like, we'll just pull this down off our website.
Right. They'll just hide the endorsement.
Yeah. So that's the issue. I think is the debate tonight. We have a debate coming between Abigail Spanberger, the Democrat candidate for governor, and Winsome Earl Sears. And so the question will be, will the moderators of this debate ask Spanberger about Jay Jones? Ask Spanberger about, is she going to disassociate herself from that? And then, of course, the other hot issue that the Republicans want to pin her down on, and she basically runs from reporters, is what about boys in girls' sports, boys in girls' locker rooms?
Well, I think that's what you're going to see regardless of the how biased the moderator is, not if.
The Republican will bring it up.
How both are going to answer by addressing their two key points. Spanberger is going to say that she's in favor of abortion, cloaked as health care, and Earl Sears is going to say, well, but she wants boys and girls bathrooms.
Yeah.
And I think no matter what question they're asked,
Yeah, it will come up.
and be repeated.
Yeah.
I think that will be the message over and over and over again, because that's all you've seen in the campaign ads.
Yeah, I do kind of get a kick out of it where Spanberger's ads have Sears saying abortion is wicked, and I'm like, yes, I would like to be quoted saying precisely that. That's where
Yes.
I'm like, fact check, true. I do believe that abortion is wicked. And they're like, you can't use words like wicked. That sounds so religious. One other thing that I thought was interesting, and I think maybe this is a much broader topic, and that is, chaos and disorder in the streets. But in Portland, disorderly conduct charges have been dropped against conservative journalist Nick Sortor, I don't know exactly how that's pronounced, who was arrested for defending himself from an attack by members of an Antifa mob in Portland. You have these journalists like Andy Now who come out in the streets and try to record these things. And then when they come under attack, somehow the journalist lobbies don't get involved, and we certainly don't hear about it.
Right. And as you said, charges were dropped against him, but why was he arrested?
Yeah.
He allegedly he went over to the police seeking safety from these protesters. So outside of the conservative media, You either don't hear about this incident, and certainly not about him, charges being dropped, the disorderly conduct charges being dropped against him, or, it's spun as if he somehow provoked them.
Right. Well, look, reporters asking questions or trying to film things. That is where Andy Ngo has gotten a number of these people get assaulted just for recording. They don't like you actually filming them. It's so funny to me because, obviously ICE can't put on masks and be unidentifiable, but Antifa can. That's all written. But the Reporters Committee for Freedom of the Press, I believe the other day, made a big stink about how reporters in Chicago at the scenes of those protests were manhandled by police. And it's sort of like, again, when you're a group like the Reporters Committee for Freedom of the Press or the Committee to Protect Journalists, and conservative journalists like, well, they don't count. We're not going to come to their defense. I find that kind of identifies where they are on the political spectrum and which journalists they're standing up for. What do you think, Clay?
Exactly. Yeah. Andy Ngo he's been beaten up maybe got to be a half a dozen times.
Did he get hit by like a concrete?
Like this, pretty sure that was it, or some.
Yeah.
I want to say milkshake, but it had to be worse. It had to be worse than that. And
I think they called it a concrete milkshake.
For Antifa.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of courageous doing what they do. But what we've seen, Clay, is the media coverage of Chicago and Portland seem to come through an anti-Trump lens, which is how outrageous that Trump wants to send National Guard troops into a situation of disorder. And what you have is, but he's sending the National Guard into a blue city or a blue state. So clearly it's very political. And it's like, so it's not political to allow your citizens to assault ICE law enforcement officials. When you have the mayor of Chicago basically saying, no, we're going to stick up for the rioters. I mean, I
love their turn on masks. All of a sudden, masks are a sign of criminal behavior, as opposed to 5 years ago where they used masks for COVID as an excuse, as a shield to do all the rioting and looting they needed in New York City.
Yeah, I mean, it really, we have come to a period where the 2020 riots just aren't part of the conversation. And certainly the Republicans and the conservatives wanted it to be part of the conversation when they discussed the January 6th riot, and you're not allowed to do that.
They don't get logged in these reports saying, right-wing violence is so much higher than left-wing violence. Well, it's easier when you don't count the congressional baseball shooting because there are no fatalities. It's a lot easier when you count January 6th, but not the 2020 Black Lives Matter rallies and riots.
Well, as my dad used to say, figures don't lie, but liars figure.
Yeah, that's true. So the White House actually had a ceremony, or not a ceremony, but a hearing of sorts with some of these Antifa tracking journalists at the White House yesterday.
I believe Ngo was there, yeah.
I was joking. I'm like, I don't think CNN's going to cut to this live. I don't see MSNBC going to this live because these channels, CNN, W. Kamau Bell was celebrating Antifa on his little show he used to have. MSNBC, Chuck Todd had Antifa people on to let them spout.
But now, I suspect you're going to see the media spin it as Trump is colluding with terrorists.
Yeah.
Remember, because he met with Putin and tried to soften relationships with Russia, and suddenly that talking to them became a bad thing.
Well, now we're at a point where we seem to have a peace agreement, a ceasefire going on between Israel and Hamas, and somehow is that going to be Trump is now pro-Hamas? Who knows? We do know that he won't. He won't get the Peace Prize. I think we could probably figure that one out. All right. Well, thank you, gentlemen. And remember, when you want to come for what we've got, Craig's got that CNS News tag at the top of NewsBusters. It is a popular tag, and for all things PBS and some New York Times as well, you got to track Clay Waters over at NewsBusters. You got to come once, twice, 24 times a day. Thanks for listening.